people's entry into the labour market proper becomes pushed beyond the age group that's dealt with by the career service. Yeah? So the career service is still advising kids in secondary schools, and it's assisting them onto schemes. But thereafter, young people will probably not use the career service, they will use the adult institutions. Yeah. And by the end of this period, the career service is no longer operating an employment exchange. That's gone. It's also the case in 1988 that 16 and 17-year-olds lose their eligibility to sign on and claim unemployment benefit. And this is best recalled for creating the NEETs. Yeah. But at this point, the career services loses its link with the social security system. Yeah. For young people who have not got jobs and are not in employment or training or education, there is no point in signing on. Yeah? As they'll just try and put you on a scheme, won't they? And you're not going to get any benefit. So that link goes also. And my institute, which has become an Institute of Careers Officers in 1990, becomes the Institute of Careers Guidance. Yeah. This is what it does. I mean, since the 1950s, the staff at the Institute have seen guidance as their real professional activity. And they've been quite willing to drop other things. They never particularly liked issuing national insurance cards. Yeah? And the employment exchange, the placement stuff was regarded as kind of sub-professional, not what the fully qualified careers officers would do. They'd be doing guidance in individuals and groups. So the rest goes. I will return to this. I mean, really, what happens next is a series of rocket attacks from central government. And in 1994, the Careers Service has been a national service administered by local education authorities, and that is replaced by career guidance companies, which are under contract from central government to deliver a careers guidance service in their areas. What's significant about this, I would suggest, is it indicates a broader change in the way in which educational policy has been formulated. I can't put a precise date on it, but I'll say from the period up to the 1960s to where we get after the 1980s. If you go back to the 1870 Education Act and through to the 1944 Education Act, all the political parties agreed that major changes in the system should be introduced consensually. They all agree that, because a child's education lasts so long, and it will be disrupted if every time there's a change of government, somebody changes the system. Yeah. Therefore, proceed consensually. In the early years, they had to proceed consensually, actually, because most of the schools were owned by churches. And this is true up to the 1944 Education Act. You have to get the churches on side. Actually, it's still the case in Northern Ireland, which makes it very difficult has made it very difficult to change anything. You have to get everybody to agree, and everybody agreeing included the professionals, the teachers. And 1910 Education Choice of Employment Act. I mean, the renaming as youth, the renaming as career service, all this is not party political. Yeah, it's agreed and there is extensive consultation. 1988 Education Act is entirely different, isn't it? Blue skies from government and its think tanks. Decide the main details, things first and discuss later. I mean, school examinations. School certificate introduced after the First World War, replaced by GCEs, O-level, A-level. A-level still with us, 1951. Yeah. All consensual, yeah. Everybody's on side. and they last. Significance is that, I mean, in the late 1980s, early 1990s, the government was seeking to introduce a wider range of providers into the delivery of public services and introduce some market mechanisms. I mean, at the time, experiments were generally in lower profile local authority services, school meals, waste collection, management of sport and leisure centres, career service. Good candidate. I mean, this changes the nature of careers officers' work in ways that are important to them. But what is important is the way in which policy making as regards the old career services has been changed. Because what people feared 100 years ago has happened to careers guidance. Subsequently, every time there has been a change of government, there's been another overhaul. Yeah. So you had New Labour elected to power in 1997. And one of their priorities was bringing down what was seen as an unacceptably high level of youth unemployment. I think back then. The first of their new deals was their New Deal for Young People, aged 18 to 25. Yep. And they'd been persuaded by Demos, a left-leaning think tank at the time, that in order to keep down the level of unemployment among the over 18s, there was this problem of the needs before them. Yeah. And the number of kids who were going to need at age 16, 17 and 18 needed to be brought down. And the service introduced to do this was, of course, Connections. And the careers guidance companies go, and Connections is always basically a local authority service. It gets the responsibilities for careers guidance of the old careers guidance companies, but its prime aim has got to be to reduce the number of NEETs. Now, I don't think I need to go into an explanation of the design flaws in Connections. I mean, in 2001, when this service was actually launched, it was known that it wouldn't work, that hauling down the number of NEETs was actually not going to be possible. Endeavouring to do that resulted in a dilution of the guidance and services that were offered to schools, and schools were grumbling. So another change of government in 2010, and Connections goes. Yeah. And the funding for careers guidance that has gone through Connections goes to schools. They say it does. I know the schools say they've not got the money, but that is what's supposed to have happened. In any case, it doesn't go to Connections anymore, does it? It doesn't go to Connections, and that is the problem in my opening. Yeah? I mean, the cries of alarm and the redundancies and the shrinking membership of the Institute of Career Guidance, which is how we got to where we are now. Handicaps. I think careers guidance has been a victim of the demand that all public services now demonstrate impact. We get this in higher education. Our research is supposed to demonstrate impact. Well, it doesn't have any, does it? Did we know? Well, anyhow, I think this is a problem for careers guidance. I know careers guidance, everybody who works in the field knows that their work does make a difference with individual cases. Yeah. And actually, the careers guidance profession has been willing to respond to this request that they demonstrate impact. Careers guidance has an economic value. Yeah. They try to show. But really, it is impossible. I don't know whether you're going to agree with me here, but I'm right. Yeah. Yeah. Suppose it was possible to do an experiment. It isn't, but suppose it was possible to take two areas, and they are identical in economies and occupational mixes and education and socio-demographic features of the population. They're identical. And one of them you saturate with careers guidance, and in the other you do nothing. Yeah. Then you compare the types of jobs that their young people are in the two areas at age 25. And there's no difference. Yeah. See through where I came in, it's the opportunity structure. Yeah. I mean, it's the jobs that are there. Yeah. I mean, also, and I probably shouldn't try to develop this out at length now. I think it's impossible, really, to get a better match than would otherwise occur. But the point is that careers guidance is not valued because of its impact, because of its long-term outcomes. It is the process that is valued. Yeah. What's the impact of television? How do you justify the BBC, all the programmes it produced in terms of impact? Yeah. People just like it, don't they? And sometimes maybe that is enough. Thing is, with career guidance, I mean, people want it. Yeah? I mean, young people, adults, may feel they can find out for themselves. But young people and parents at different junctures want to know what are the next possible steps that they can take, don't they? And they want to know, if they take each of those steps, what are the possible sequels for them? They want to know that, don't they? That's what they're always mising about. There's effective demand. And it might actually make any difference to where they end up. Yeah. But they still want to be able to resort to authoritative guidance in which they can have confidence. And I think there are a lot of activities that have to, if they're going to be regarded as a success, have to be judged against criteria where they can win. Yeah? And doing things like bringing down the level of unemployment, yeah? And producing a thriving knowledge economy. I mean, careers guidance is not going to do that. You have to judge it against what it can do. I also think, I mean, obviously, careers guidance has been left vulnerable by the extent to which its practitioners over time must simply do careers guidance. And careers guidance with young people in education. I mean, their old links with employers are no longer there. They link on with schemes, they link with post-compulsory education, but they don't have the old links with the labour market proper. And they're not involved in the social security system. They become purely a guidance service. And that territory has become congested. I mean, there are schools have careers teachers, universities, further education, and colleges have their own guidance staff. Careers teachers since 1969 have had their own professional association and now get their own qualification. And I know that careers guidance officers working most recently in Connections insist that their skills, what they do, is different and complementary to the role of careers teachers. But they've not been able to convince people in Whitehall or government ministers. The field looks congested. Meanwhile, there's a pamphlet published in the past couple of weeks by Paul Byvand. It's in the Touchstone series, which is TUC, but it's not PUC policy. I've got it somewhere in my briefcase. But it's a pamphlet about youth unemployment and says nothing remarkable about that. But it does end with the recommendation that a new service should be created for the under 25s, yeah, which would combine career service and job centre plus. Yeah. There's vacant space, and there's also congested territory as a result of the way things have developed. So is it reform? Well, no, I think it's attempted murder, actually. I mean, it's an attempt to get rid of what is seen as a duplicating occupation. But it won't work. At best, at worst, there'll be injury. Because there is effective demand, there is still demand for guidance from the traditional clientele, young people in secondary and post-compulsory education. Also, you've got thousands of qualified careers guidance personnel who at the moment are demonstrating that they're quite capable of taking their own advice and being adaptable and enterprising and reconstituting and reorganising themselves, and they are very effectively represented by their institute in policy making circles, so there might be injury, but not death. Long term, the changes currently happening might be seen as reform. Might. But even if so, I'll still think that Wales and Scotland are doing it better. So thank you.